Next, it is my pleasure to introduce our School Resource Officer, Nick Pascarosa, for our military enlistee recognition.
Good evening, seniors. Good evening, parents. I rise tonight on behalf of the Dennis-Yarmouth community to humbly and happily carry on a uniquely DY tradition. Every year we recognize the very high level of commitment demonstrated by those among the graduating class who have enlisted in the United States Armed Forces. You are the first family members not just to witness this tradition, but to be invited to participate in it. The enlistees are joining an institution older than the country itself. They will carry on traditions that find their roots in a history that stretches back to the establishment of the Continental Army in 1775. Their military service will be the most formative experience of their lives. The change you see in them will be dramatic, as their character is forged by the sacred guiding principles of duty, honor, and courage. Moms, don't fret. Your baby is still in there. He just stands a little taller now, and his eyes are a little sharper. If you accept the premise that it takes a village to raise a child, then I call your attention to this impressive assemblage before you that we have all had a hand in raising. Of a class of 199 children raised by our village, starting in your home with you, their parents, there are 7 of them who have assumed a very special role. While the village goes about its business, raising children and doing other things that villages do, it will be these 7 who watch over it and everyone in it. They have chosen to assume the mantle of the sheepdog that willingly puts itself between the wolf and the flock. A sheepdog must remain vigilant while the sheep go about their business. A sheepdog must occasionally bare its teeth to the wolf, teeth that are just as sharp and frightening as the wolf's own. This tends to unsettle the sheep. A sheepdog is always ready, for there is always a wolf about. Momentarily, I will call the names of these 7, and they will come and stand before you and their classmates. They will form a line, and I want you to think about how big that line is, or rather how very small. Metaphorically speaking, if the wolf comes tonight, we all have to fit behind them because they are the ones who will confront it on our behalf. Our 7 enlistees will stand with many DY graduates who enlisted before them, and those who go, those who go with them from the graduating classes of other high schools. Their relative number is tiny. These 7 graduate enlistees represent about 3.5% of the class of 2012, a number easily overlooked or dismissed as insignificant at any other school but here. At the end of the evening, we will rightly and enthusiastically recognize the top 10% of the class. 3.5% to stand for all the others. There is something very special about that, and it does not go unnoticed here. We live in a time that will be looked upon as the longest period of war in American history, yet brave young people still emerge, in this case from our village, from this class, with a sense of purpose so strong that they would put aside a life of comfort to join the very few others who serve. There is no draft. They are all volunteers, and each has his or her own reason for making this important decision. When I spoke to one of our enlistees a few days ago, he told me he did not want to be included in the ceremony. I told him I was prepared to respect his wishes, and I had to ask him why. With a firm handshake and a look straight into my eyes, he told me I didn't do it for the recognition. I gave him the only answer I could. I told him none of you did, and that's why we have to recognize you. I'm pleased to say he reconsidered, and I will call his name tonight. This is just one example of what our village has produced. Tonight I rise on behalf of the village, and I say we are proud and we are grateful. I will present each enlistee with 2 things this evening. The first is a plaque which reads, "Presented on behalf of a grateful community with respect and pride on your enlistment in the United States Armed Forces," and a quote from Winston Churchill, the only foreign citizen to have a United States naval vessel named for him. The words are in reference to the Royal Air Force after the Battle of Britain, and I think it is applicable to the United States soldier and truer now than at any other time. Never in the face of human conflict has so much been owed by so many to so few. The other item is a surface flag. The flag goes to the family to proudly fly at their home during the child's term of enlistment. This officially recognized flag was designed in 1917 by United States Army Captain Robert L. Quiser of the 5th Ohio Infantry in honor of his two sons who were serving in World War I. It was quickly adopted by the public and by government officials. On September 24, 1917, an Ohio congressman read into the congressional record, quote, "The world should know of those who give so much for liberty, the dearest thing in all the world to a father and mother, their children." End quote. The blue star represents each family member serving in the armed forces of the United States during any period of war or hostilities in which our armed forces are engaged. We are short one flag because I could not find one that has two stars on it, but I will. It is for the family who tonight celebrates their graduate, who will join his brother as a United States Marine currently deployed to Afghanistan. I'm now going to introduce a little audience participation to our tradition. If you served or are currently serving in the United States Coast Guard, please stand and be recognized. No Coasties? The United States Navy, please stand and be recognized. As I call our enlistees, please stand when you hear your branch of service. To the enlistees, please take a look around and acknowledge those who stand with you. It was they who kept liberty's torch lit in their youth, the same torch that is now passed to you to keep burning brightly. As much as we owe to you, we owe them our deepest gratitude. Enlisted in the United States Air Force, Joseph Connors. Enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, Corey Hennigan. Enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, Adam Lumsden. Enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, Andrew Robles. Enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, Suhail Sabre. Enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, Miles Tui Bedford. Enlisted in the United States Army, Taylor Tierney. Ladies and gentlemen, the Sheepdogs of the class of 2012.